ndicinga bafana ibalulekile into yokufunda apho sisuka khona emva, that is because if mhlawumbi sinayo la mentality ithi carry on with tradition, ndicinga bafana idea comes from that, carrying in from tradition, because we come to a community apho whatever that needs to be passed down is done already, we come from ixesha lentsomi and everything. So I feel like ngale ndlela i-art gets to contribute kwi-heritage ngeyona ndlela, because as much as ukuba i-method esiyisebenzisileyo throughout time njengabantu abamnyama leyo, but it kind of has failed us namhlanje, with the advancement of the technology and everything. But if mhlawumbi we continue, we carry on that tradition by archiving it, ngohlobo lomculo, for instance, art it gives it a little bit of more stretch, for the future generations. Because Nati, at this time, we're grappling into that whole grapevine result, So I say, kodwa ke inayo direction. It gives it a chance. Uyabona ukuba mahlale a bit longer and mhlawumbi resonate to an individual ngendlela ezininzi ezahlukileyo, depending on ixesha nemood umuntu azabe ekuyo ngelo xesha azabe emamele ngayo. Mhlawumbi uzabe seyinguye umzekelo. There's not one in to be in being. There's no one in specific, né? But I think it's a combination, of his story, that came from Umakuru, and most of that time it was. Because we never had any of insomi or tales under over fire, But I know it's a general concept. Kodwa ke tina, we had this big tree, That's where she actually shared much of imfundiso to. But I would say akho sinye but zininzi, I think that they get to live through, whether it was personal experiences zakhe okanye zizinto that we endured as a family, njengokuba siye sikhula kwade kwaba khona nexesha lokuba nam ndide ndifikelele nakwelithuba likulo. It's always about meaning. It's always about meaning. We can try and make fiction of intlalo ethu ekuhlaleni, but eyona nto mna ndikholelwa kuyo is that i-meaning kufuneka ihlale ihleli yona, what are we trying to say? What are we trying to have? Ongaphansi, what are we trying to say? This is what you should learn. This is what you should take home. Yeah. See, we can be creatives, and sometimes mhlawumbi si iphambane kuba si creative kakhulu, and we tend to imagine so much. And sometimes you find that we projects ezininzi that we kind of lost it. Kuba siye imagine kakhulu, and then we forgot the meaning now. Cloudwa i-meaning yiyo yonke lento yenzekayo apho. So if we always maintain okay, i-meaning yebali ithi, ithi i-meaning yebali, so kufuneka siyazi uba kulapho ihlala khona. Whatever thina esiyenzayo, that we try to make it creative for mhlawumbi the young one, kuba I understand, or for him to be captured, by it, because we also have nuances, but we need to capture, but in all of that, meaning, first off, I think each and with, I don't know, that's just me, but I would love to think each and every artist experiences it about each and every performance. We are one is different from the other or the next one, and each and every time of that particular performance, you definitely do become a stranger to yourself, because of the emotion, the state, and umoya okuwo, and when it comes to performing kwindawo engeyo yam, which I can say is I have performed officially in foreign places than my own local place in terms of performance. But in terms of ezinye izinto, I've contributed ekuhlaleni, but in terms of the performance, ndiperforme kakhulu endaweni ezingezo zam, and all of that time, it always feel like I am still one with where I'm coming from the village, from eQonce, ndisenguye because ekugqibeleni, the message that I'm trying to take out there, ayo message yam, but a message yokuhlala, when ke ngoku ndiseqongeni, that's where I summon, everyone, that actually onesandla kumuntu endinguye, ne-artist endiyiyo. Injalo, because I think of the performance as, and I think art in general, as something that's spiritual, and in the spirituality, you always know that always there is some kind of power that you possess, that we are whereby no man, angomandlam anga, but a family, they could be akatatumkhulu, they could be ubagogo, they could be of isizwe, say isizwe.
Nojoli was the first queen, or a royal queen of King Kgagabe. As you would know, Amaxhosa have got two houses. There is one east of the Kai, which Amaxhosa call Inciba, and that is the royal house, Amagcaleka.
Used to be Charles Street, Victory, which is now in Lord Jolly Street, but we are not changing our name because it's fourth generation, so we don't want to change our name, and business has still not been affected by the change of name.
Sinamanzi eMnandi, sinamanzi sineenyanga ezimbini 3 singenamanzi.
Tshintsha kweligama wena ukwenze le nto?
Into yotshintsha kwegama
From Somerset.
akakho into ndelisa lo because kuyafana mutshintshwe nje igama
Kuyaqala.
akho nto uyitshintshileyo.
Ingakhali insikezi madoda, izulu liyazongoma. Ingakhali insikezi madoda, izulu liyazongoma.
For me, a name change in South Africa and in KwaNonjoli in particular is important because it's a form of restorative justice. You must remember, when the Europeans came to South Africa, in the Cape in particular, they didn't find what you would call a tabula rasa, which is a blank slate. These places were called something by the people who were living there. They themselves changed the names to suit their own culture, their own history, and everything. So that is why I'm saying that it is kind of a form of a restorative justice. How far that goes, I do not know, because some other people will say.
First off, there's confusion. The people become conflicted, because as you say, colonization dimmed down, a lot of things, and not Judy, in fact, is one of those people, and I had that privilege of being part of a project, that sought to address those issues of name change and trying to bring back, our heritage and historical figures into the picture. And at first it was an exciting thing because it is what is right. It's the right thing to do. But when you get to be in the same space now as the people who are affected by this name change, the ones that oppose, because you're taking away something that they relate from, which in this case would have been Somerset, Lord Charles Somerset, and replacing it with a figure that is kind of mythical in a way, because it's kind of hidden even to its own people. Now that's why that's where the conflict comes in amongst the minds of the people, because some will be saying and what was interesting was so many explanations when we got there asking about that, but in the end, as much as they were telling all these tales about who this person could have been, there was always something regal about his Lumabali album, and it was so appreciated, in the end, when finally Abantu, get to now understand, oh, this person, Jolie, is actually, she's a great wife, she's the great mother, she's queen mother, of our nation, of our class. And she was this wife of Umlam. And I think even the ones that now were opposing based on what they could relate or not relate to, they got to understand, oh, okay. And even the ones that have more claim on the name, and more association with the name, Jonga, now we also got to understand, because some were thinking trains, some were thinking super fantastical figures, roaming the mountains, glaring at the beauty of the image in the town, there was, and looking upon abantu bayo, but still then in a way it turned out to be someone that they could also appreciate, and someone who actually broke a few boundaries, you can understand, for even kwawube kanti nabantu bakule ndawo bakuyo namhlanje.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I'm the son. Although the artist is embedded within, they are not really separable, to be honest. But it's just that one evolves differently on a certain platform, and then the other, as well. Why I could also try to motivate. Why in the city, first and foremost, I am the son. It's something that I learned at quite an early age, that we come from a royal family, and regardless of whatever the situation is today, but we always have a role to play, to the betterment of isizwe, yeah. So yiloo nto ke kufuneka xa ndisenza umsebenzi wesizwe ndiqale ndibe ngonyana.
abanye abantwana ababo baloni noni ithe kanti abanye abantwana ababo baloni noni.
They are kind of related, to be honest. They're more like twins. Now that I'm thinking about it, never really thought about it that way, but they're more like twins. But still, there are differences. You know, within the line of work, that deals personally with a community, with individuals. You know, like you get to be intimate with ingxaki, with the problem. You know, Gandhi on the artist's side, you know, when you deliver what you have, and then that's just that, and then people trust you enough, you know, to just let it sink in, understand you better, and yeah, bayitshise njalo. Now when we deal with the reality of that kind of community work, that kind of leadership, you know, it deals now directly with abantu nengxaki, you know, and things that needs is a sombululo at this instance, you know. So ningatsho ndithi the differences is higher. One needs immediate remedy, you know, and the other, you know, it needs a more long-term, you know, it's a more long-term remedy, you know, that gets to sit in and mature, you know, and then in the end it gets fulfilled. When we're dealing with disputes of land, with abantu bokuhlala, it's something that we need to respond to with this instance. You know, it's something that we need to say, this has to happen. You know, we need to come together now. We need to talk to each other now. We need to find a solution now. You know, so that at the end of that engagement, we have found common ground. Zihamba zihambe zohluke ngolo hlobo. Enye yona inde iyatsala, it's more long term, and then enye needs, it's an urgent, it's got an urgent need of attention. Upon light to everyone, you know, to the motherland, to all that live in it, you know. We just want things to shift. We want things to change now. So yeah, you can feel it with us. Siyabulela. That's a very serious and quite funny question, you know, in a way, because not so many of us artists, you know, takes a responsibility or accountability, you know, to themselves in this way. But I would like to say, and I would like to believe, ukuba at all times, when we have something to say, or we have a story to tell, we should always do justice to that story. We should always remember that whatever that we do, because most of the time, all this art, we're doing it for ourselves. We might have ideas as a romantic, that you're doing this for glitz and the glams and the what is it and what's, some people. But to be honest, as an artist, it's just you trying to find ukupila, and that's how you get healed, by you venting out, expressing, what is within you. And by that moment you let that go, then it reaches someone else. And that next person, when that person reaches, when that message reaches the next person, and personally, I always think about those that come behind me. That's what I always have in mind. Whether it's my son, whether it's my younger brother or his friend. I always think about that, like what am I trying to teach him? How is it going to sit with him? What is he going to get out of all of this message that I'm trying to take out? So that's always at the bottom of my mind. Like, okay, I'm trying to be this person. I'm trying to be creative, but in the end, will it do justice in terms of shaping the mind of the young one, in terms of shaping, how we make decision making, because when we express, sometimes it's not just a personal reflection, but more an environmental one, or societal one, what we are seeing out there, and that's what we're trying to address at that particular moment. So you always want to leave a positive note, don't make it boring. You need to capture someone, but at the same time, have that always in mind. But I'm here to fix something. I'm here to fix something. There's so many things broken. But I can fix one pain. I can fix one pain. So yeah. Then the rest can be one of my peers and those that will come after me. We all have a duty. Because when it comes to the advancement of time and modernity, I love to think that there's more strain into culture and tradition and all of that. But on that same breath, I would love to believe, that the net somehow does make things lighter and easier, to get So yeah, I mean, just by the instance, like recently, this whole Nigerian saga, Ukombo, where a chief from Nigeria or Nigerian king or Igbo, I don't really quite understand the terminology there, but it was social media that kind of broke that story. And right there and then, we experienced so many holes that we maybe not everyone knew that existed, within the governing of the state. Where you see the clash between the traditional and the government side of things. Government is a whole structure where in a normal, ordinary situation you would find that kind of situation would have been handled by the kingdom, and that kind of a ceremony could have never existed without the royalty or the custodians knowing anything about. And that thing just happened. And we realizing now is actually that actually there could be some individuals who are aware of this thing, or who might have assisted in this thing happening, whether directly or indirectly. I mean, whether they knew this is where it was going or not. But to cut it just short, is that the media, the internet, it broke that story and it captured the nation. So I believe there is space for it within our culture and tradition and the future and advancement of it all. But I believe that if used ngendlela engeyiyo, it's not going to work to our advantage. If we're not using these technologies, this modernity, ngendlela eyiyo, it's not going to take us into a great place as a cultural community. That is, but if siyazike sisucinga, and scrutinize every single step and decisions esizithathayo, then there's a future and there's a possibility, because in the end we still need that digital work to store all of this for Nyana Wang and for his and. I'm I'm shaken by it, bro. I'm shaken because I think of it in this way.
Mm-hmm.
I told you.
Yeah.
Now, whatever I am doing, I'm doing as a father. You know, I'm
Love that.
doing it as a brother. You know, as an uncle, and all of that. You know, so having to depend on
Mm.
it reminds me that I need to be constantly growing up. I need to grow up. I need to mature. All of the time I make an appearance. All of the time I make a performance. You know, I need to be mature because this is not for me. I could not be wilding out and enjoying and basking in this moment. You know, because it's not for me.
Profile.
It's not for me. It's for my kids. It's for my young brothers. You know, so yeah, it's always a scary a moment to realize that actually we don't stay young forever. At some stage we need to grow. Yesterday I lost my grandmother, and it was not a sad moment, but I was grateful for Ezomfundiso, you know, that she had to quit a meal and at that moment I was just celebrating it, but then at the same time, you know, there was that whole, you know, flooding of realization that actually, fuck, the baton is on me.
Yeah.
You know, the baton is on me. Like, now we setting up the rules, you know, we heading the situation, you know. Now, when we get to the crowd at home, you know, you the one to open up and speak, you know. Uxelela abantu abakhulu uba sikhona ngoku apha sizocela sizobulela sizokuthi sengumsebenzi wami. So it kind of like evokes that thing, that consciousness, singabantu siyakhula asizohlala sibangaka. Now that sizele sizekile, kufuneka sishiye into ebambekayo.
Qhubela phambili.
The message and the work is never ending. So I could be a fossil out of the ground, but there's so much that I need to be touching. You know, I need to go through so many hands, and I believe up until the final destination.
Wait, which final destination?
The
movie or?
That too, but you know, in the end, bro, Kaila and Chot, wherever Indiana, Yogo, Kunogo, Konba Yaikuki.
I don't
We are
know.
original.
Yeah,
We are one nalapho indaba ikaphili uyabona ayipheli indaba. So thina wethu umsebenzi awunayo retirement. You know, it's not a game of soccer, you know, okanye a teaching profession or any other profession actually out there. You know, this one you don't age for. You know, it's just like imfundo, where you get to die and you get to get old and gray, learning. You know, so we will we constantly seeking indlela of getting the message across, you know, and we out there, use emaphakathi sizama, you know, sizama. To be honest, all the concepts that come into reality, I think zisuka kudala, you know, it's just a revocation of incinga okanye feelings. So to be specific, ngexesha, I would lie, but for me, ixesha elininzi, there's always the need, you know, to make you understand what you have at this particular moment, that we all sometimes, you know, tend to be ignorant to, and seek for ezinye izinto that are out of our reach. So that's a message that always lingered to me, that we have so much, you know, at our disposal, but asiyazi loo nto leyo, we don't realize it, you know. So this composition, sorry, it goes, you know, and try to say, hey, wake up, man. Wake yourself up, shake yourself up, because you've got this. You have food to eat for tonight, but still you have to complain. Ngelo xesha bakhona abanye abantu abangenayo into yokutya, who actually should be the ones abacomplainayo ngalo. So that's why ndisitsho ndisithi i-time frame yayo, but into eyingcambu esuka apha kum leyo, uba we always need to be appreciative of into esinayo, and learn to utilize it to our utmost best, you know, because ekugqibeleni ingayinto esebenzelayo than into that's going to take you out of your way, trying to acquire it, and then in the end you realize that ayina substance ekugqibeleni, you know, eyona nto ne-substance iza kondla nantsi apha kuwe ekhabhathini. I would say, without a single doubt in my mind, that trust in what you have within you. Whatever story that you have, never doubt your tongue, never doubt your language, never doubt what you grew up with. Use that to tell your story, because in that way it sounds more real and it's relatable to so many other, whether peers, older or younger than you. Always trust in that. Trust what is within you. Never try to disconnect from the source of who you are. You know, then that goes with everything, the language, the thinking. You know, be you. Whatever you're trying to take out there, make it that. Make it yourself. Make it about you. Make it as relatable to yourself as possible, and it would be easy for the next person to relate. Yeah.
Where did you just go now?
Excuse me. I think. Yeah, jeez. There's no words. Really?
It's visible to the, it's invisible to
Yeah.
me.
But that's not actually a problem.
Yeah. I think particularly with this one, it feels like right there at the ear of the source, where this message, I think, is trying to get to, Diasebeza, and the melodies of the accompanying instrument, definitely felt like it helps that whisper to have a bit of a meaning and emotion, nowhere in specific, but to that ear of that source, I think, yeah, right there, where it was intended to go, yeah, I believe, ifikile, siyabulela, ifikile, thank you.
Are you a chief or a king?
King.
Are you the chief or are you the king? King Kanya.
Can we see the
Tell
smile
us.
of a king?
Who are you? Huh? I can't hear you.
Yeah.
King Kanya.
Forward movement started with the surface, fashion, sound, the immediate hit. But Buntu Duku reminds us that movement only matters if it has direction. This is the cinema we are building, where heritage is not nostalgia, where activism is not performance, where the land is not scenery. African stories told with African patience, for a future that remembers. I'm GT. This is Forward Movement. We carry you forward. Keep moving.